This is grease. It is shiny, it looks so fine. The one I'm using is green and it smells so nice. I do like the smell of the grease and you know doing all the maintenance work here in the studio. It makes our bike work smoothly. It protects against the water and rust, but it's not made for all the parts of our bicycles. And today I'd like to talk about three main areas where many of us do make this mistake. Even in some local stores, some things are still being practiced and they can damage or ruin even your bike and the frame. So let's see what these are, and I'll be curious to see your reaction in the comments below the video. Let's go to the first one. So number one, that's our chain, or I would even say drivetrain. We do not put grease on the chain. I know my grandpa was doing it. It was okay for his very old bike, which he would maybe grease once for 5 years, and he would use the bike for 50 years. Can you believe that? Who would use one chain for 10 years even nowadays? So we do not put the grease on the chain. Why is it so? Once you grease the chain, you're gonna have the chain on a whole drivetrain. That means you're gonna have it on the cassette, you're gonna have it on the crankset, I'm gonna show you that, and also on the pulleys of your derailleur. With that being said, you can just imagine how much sand, dirt, mud, anything you go through will be just sticking to your drivetrain. The problem it causes is that, yeah, maybe the water won't be a huge problem for your chain or your drivetrain, but all these little rags, this is what you can see here on this protector. If you've got it right here, it will create so much friction between the chain and the sprockets, so that the lifetime of it will be many times shorter. So we don't want to grease the chain. The other thing is also that if you do the lubing properly, so if you lube the chain, the lube doesn't have as much density as the grease has, so it will go in between different parts of your chain. That means between the outer links, inner links, those pins, and everywhere where it has. The chain I'm showing you here is chain which has now maybe 200 kilometers made, maybe not, maybe 150 or so during trainings, and it looks pretty clean. Why is it so? Because after lubing my chain, when the chain soaks up the lube, I would really clean the chain so that it's not sticky. It's not sticky at all. So if you buy a new chain and you can see it's full of grease, you should do with the chain what I told on the episode what to do with the new chain on the new bike, but do not re-grease it. Just use the lube so that the chain won't take all this dirt that you might go through, not only on MTB bikes, but also on the road bikes. You see, the bike is dirty. I'm just gonna prepare it for tomorrow's race, because tomorrow I'm going for the small MTB marathon. But as you can see, the frame is dirty and the chain looks pretty clean, but there is some dirt here on the chain rings, and if there was more of especially sand or small little rocks, you will hear it as hell. You will feel it when you pedal, all this noise. That means you are wearing down your precious chain ring, your precious chain, your precious cassette, and the pulleys on your derailleur. So you don't want to have a sticky drivetrain. That's why you don't put the grease. Maybe there would be some situations when I would consider using grease. If you're going for some long travel distance, like, I don't know, 500 kilometers, and you're gonna go through many rivers, maybe having something more than just a wet oil, something more dense, maybe grease, then would help. But just make sure that you don't go through the sand after that, because it's gonna be full of the rock, those little particles, and it will be just contaminated. So let me know if you use grease in some really rare occasions on your chains, but overall this would be a great mistake to put the grease on it. This is the mistake number 2, and this one can cause some serious damage to our bike. Sadly, I would still hear about some bike stores practicing it, and it's putting the grease on our seat tube and into our seat post. Yes, I know in the old days putting grease on the seat post, where the seat post was larger and there was much more material used for the frame, and the seat post clamp was much larger as well, would not cause any problems and would prevent maybe water from just coming into or in between the seat post and the seat tube. But no, please don't do it. We need friction between the seat post and the seat tube here. The seat post slides into the seat tube of our frame, and it should stay in the position we just need for our pedaling, for our bike fit, right? So do not put grease there. The least problem you might come across when somebody puts grease on your bike, on your seat tube, is that it will just slide down. But then you're gonna have to use more torque on this bolt. This little bolt, this is our seat post clamp, and I'm gonna show you how it looks like. This is how it looks like. It clamps around the seat tube, and over tightening it can cause a great damage to the bike, because either the seat tube or the seat post can just crack, can break, and you don't want to do that. In order to use even less torque on the bolts, I highly recommend that you use the paste. That's the one I got with Canyon Endurance bike. Remember that? This is not grease. Even though it looks like grease, it's some stuff with small particles in it, like little sand there, and it will increase the friction between the two parts. The only place where I would recommend putting grease is just here around our seat post clamp, and maybe on the bolt that's tightening it, because we don't want to have friction between the seat post clamp and the seat tube, so that we don't have to use once more a lot of force in order to squeeze it in. So grease here, yes, but inside the frame between the seat post and the seat tube, no, don't do it. It's wrong. It doesn't matter whether you have steel bike, aluminum bike, carbon bike, just don't do it. Yes, if you leave it like that and you just ride through some, muddy terrains and the water, and we leave it like that for years, we can have problem just removing the seat post, but cleaning it even once a year is just enough, and you don't want to have the grease on it. Number 3, the last one, please don't laugh. Greasing the brakes, the disc brakes, or especially the rotors. Please don't laugh, but maybe you also found some funny stories on some bike forums when people say, help, my brakes were squeaking, and so I've put some grease on the rotor. They do not squeak at all, but somehow I lost the braking power. You don't want to have any grease, any oil, any contamination on your rotors. Maybe it's not super common thing for people to do, because most of the people would realize these are the brakes and we need friction in order to brake, in order to change our speed into the heat of this whole thing. But some people do it. There is also some other way to grease your rotor without even knowing it, and it's touching the rotors. And that's quite a few people do. When you assemble the wheel onto your bike, or just put the wheel into the car for transportation, do not touch the rotors. Even if you think your hands, your palms, your fingers are clean, don't do it. There's always some kind of grease on our hands, usually. And this thing should be kept clean and degreased regularly. So do not grease your brakes, guys. These are the three I wanted to point out. Really, that's our chain and drivetrain. Don't put grease there, just lube those and clean, make those really shiny and nice. Maybe put some more lube if you're going for many kilometers. Your drivetrain will be a bit more messy, but it will be okay. Don't put grease there. Don't grease your brakes and don't grease your seat post. This is what I wanted to say. Let me know what do you think just below the video. Thanks so much for supporting my channel, and thank you for using the links to different stores. It really helps me, and most likely it will happen. I'm gonna go to Iceland and do the trip for you. Thanks so much. Bye bye.